Hello and welcome to Tommy Surfs. Today we're going to be looking at the Dark Twin by Duke AIPA paired with the NVS Ahi twin fins with a stabilizer. Now the version we're going to be looking at is the one put out by Surftech, which is their dual core construction. Now before we begin, I feel like I have to tell you that Noel Salas did a really good review on this board, the Dark Twin, as well as the Dark Horse. And he had Duke AIPA on his show, kind of explaining the board. So I highly recommend going and seeing that video. So what I'll be talking about mainly is my experience with the board. Again, just an evaluation of an everyday surfer in everyday conditions, from really bad to so-so. Okay, I don't get to surf really good waves. But in Noel Salas's video, you know, you got Zeke Lau, you got Noel Salas, a couple other guys just ripping on this board. And so it's important to go check that out because it just kind of shows you what the upper limits are of that board. And I'm going to try to demonstrate what the bottom limits are. So now going back to the construction of dual core. So what that is basically is the board is EPS mostly, except the rails, and you can see where the line's drawn. The rails are actually PU, and so the idea behind that is you're going to get the spring pop lightness of the EPS, you know, better for paddling, catching waves, that sort of thing. But then when you set on rail, you get more of the PU feel. Now, also another thing is when they glue on the side panels of the PU, that glue kind of acts like a parabolic stringer. So I think that adds to the torsion flex of the board. So my first impression of the technology was the board is super light. I would kind of put it, you know, if you're familiar with Firewire, it's kind of in between a LFT and a helium. So now, before we get into the surfing part of it, just talk about the board itself, the design here. The board is basically a medium entry rocker, and it's stated as a medium exit. I would kind of put it more medium to low exit rocker, which is actually great because as a groveler, that's going to help a lot. Okay, but as you saw from Zeke's footage, the upper limits are still amazing, and I think that has a lot to do with the overall design of the board. As far as contours are concerned, it's got a kind of a, not a V, but like a rolled nose, right? So it's almost like a V, to a single concave, to a double concave between your legs, and then more towards the tail, pretty heavy V out the tail. And that kind of starts right around where the stinger wing is. And again, Noel Salas and Duke kind of really go into it in Noel Salas's video, so that's super helpful to watch. Now the very first thing I noticed about this board is how well it caught waves. So if you look at the conditions, it is pretty soft, pretty mushy, not a lot of energy, but the board did very well to catch waves. As well as just paddling around, I felt like it just had something about it, maybe the distribution of foam, maybe that dual core technology, the EPS, all of it just kind of added to how well it moved around and caught waves. Look at this one. I mean, that was pretty much a stall just to drop in. Oh, I do have to apologize for my camera again. I am really getting frustrated with my solo shot. I had a day where every single maneuver was out of focus. But here I wanted to test out how well a board was tic-tacking. Now here, I get a good first turn, again out of focus. And then the second turn, I didn't move my foot back because the two waves prior to this, I literally just stepped off my tail and fell. So I didn't do it on that wave, and I ended up bogging the rail because I had my weight too far forward. And then right there, what's a Tommy Surfs video without a 360, right? It's the old man maneuver. I got to put one in there. Now looking back at this particular day, these are actually fun looking waves. I didn't realize, I think in the moment, I was more concerned about not having a traction pad. Right at this moment is about the time I started to really just fall in love with this board. Now, I don't think I was even putting 100% of my effort in because of the fact that I didn't have a tail pad. And I know I'm focusing on that too much, but right here I fell because I didn't have its tail pad. My foot just slipped right off. And I did that a few times. And I mean, in the end, I got used to it. But bottom line, I wasn't putting 100% effort. I mean, I would say I was putting maybe 80% effort in pushing out my back leg. So right here, you'll see me. This is kind of a weak turn. I think I would have tried harder. I just was afraid of my foot slipping off. So now here, my solo shot failed on this day, but I wanted to show the best footage I could salvage. And what I discovered here on this day is that it does really well to get through flat sections and gets a lot of speed. So as a 2+1, this is surprisingly a very high performance board. It almost feels like a full-on thruster. And this particular session here was probably the worst day. I would have gone home, but because it was so sloppy. But I wanted to make sure I surfed to kind of demonstrate how well it does on crappy days. And I don't know if you could see it, but it's like a south wind, so there's these bumps. But yet, really good to get speed. And look at that one. I barely paddled. I mean, just so easy to get into waves. And here I'm just hopping sections. Look at this one. See how the waves are ribbed? So I'll hop to the next section, and I'll bounce and get some speed. You know, and it was just making sections all day today. And it would have been probably one of the worst days to surf, but I ended up having a lot of fun because of this board. So now anyone that knows me knows I love the Seaside. Now the one thing about the Seaside, because it's a shorter package, wider nose, on days like today where it's this sloppy, it's hard to get through those bumps. But this board, maybe because it's 5'6", got a pointier nose, it was doing really well to get through the chop. And it was windy, but there was no chatter. So I mean, everything about it, whether it's the dual core technology, the twin fin design, all of it just made the board feel high performance in subpar conditions. So this here is now a much cleaner day, but same thing, small, and look how well this board does to get through this little tiny flat section. Enough to give me a maneuver. So here I'm going to demonstrate what not to do. Yes, don't blow out your ankle. So halfway through this, as I was dropping in, I saw the explosion about to happen, so I kind of unweighted, so I didn't hurt myself. Last thing I need is to hurt my knees or my ankles and then be out of surfing for like 6 weeks. So at this point, a lot of these waves probably aren't that exciting to watch, but you know, what I'm trying to show and demonstrate is one, this board gets into waves really easily. Two, because it's a twin and the way it's designed, it really feels like a thruster, but one that has a lot of drive. So, you know, you're kind of getting the best of two worlds. You get this drivey twin, but the performance of a thruster. But the cool thing is I let a couple people ride this while I had it in my possession, and they too loved it. I might have to consider buying one at this point. Whether it's crappy, whether it's good, it just works. And I would say between this one, my Sharp Eye FT, and my Mashup, these are the three boards I absolutely love, and they all seem to be somewhat performance oriented. So yeah, I would highly recommend this, especially if you like any of those two boards I mentioned. At any rate, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree, disagree, whatever the case may be. For me, judging it from how it felt, as well as looking at the footage of my surfing, I just feel like this board works. The amount of performance I get, I just love it. And I think, you know, pairing it with those Ahi fins, I'm gonna have to try those Ahi fins on my Mashup just to see how that feels. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like the video, help out the algorithm. Let's get this video in front of more people. Let's get this board under more people's feet, because I think you guys would really enjoy it.